Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Well, I have no idea if that was pixelated and crazy for you, Jake. It was for me, the opening there. Maybe it's my hotel interference. Anyway, Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. I am your man on the ground, Isaiah Hole, in Pennsylvania. That is Jake Butt, the Mackey Award-winning tight end, who is in Auburn, because he's full allegiance to the Tigers now. So we're just going ahead and we're doing this. We're taking the show on the road, Jake.
We're both on the road right now. Yeah, I'm coming live from Auburn, Alabama. When we got in the car last night, I was responsible for the GPS. Didn't have the specific address, so they just said type in Auburn. I typed in Auburn, and we went from the Atlanta airport north towards Auburn, Georgia, about 30 minutes before we realized we had to turn around and drive south to Auburn, Alabama. So I screwed us for an hour of driving. But we are here. We are on the road. No, I have no allegiance to Auburn other than my former roommate, Patrick Kugler, who was a GA here. So where he goes, I go, but I still bleed maize and blue, guys. Nothing to worry about there.
Auburn, I'm wearing my Texas shirt. I've got Bevo up and everything. I thought we were doing different schools, but I guess we can talk about Michigan football playing Penn State. That will be happening tomorrow at noon on ABC. And it's a game in which Penn State 6-3. You feel like this is a must-win for Michigan by the sake of you don't want to lose this game, especially considering Penn State. One of its losses is to Illinois at home, so it's in about 25 million overtimes. So it's kind of one of those things where it's like, all right, Michigan, you've got to win this one. If Illinois can beat Penn State, certainly you should be able to as well. But when you think about this game, Jake, what are your thoughts? What are the big keys for you when you look at this matchup?
So you're going on the road to Penn State, and Penn State is probably it's my favorite place to play. The environment is truly unbelievable. And if you've ever been to Penn State, if you drove there, you're driving through the middle of nowhere and you're like, well, where the hell am I going? And then all of a sudden there's this little college town and you're like, oh, I get it. I see where we are. Well, there's nothing going on but Penn State football. So the fans are always heavily invested. The stadium's built for noise, built for environment. They pump in that little Nittany Lion roar after every big play and before third downs. It gets everybody fired up. And there's almost like a mini rivalry between Penn State and Michigan, too. Those games always seem to be juiced up and hyped up. So there's going to be a lot of emotion going into this game. Obviously, implications, we're in November now. So every single game matters. And Michigan coming off a big win against Indiana. Injuries are going to be a key. And Harbaugh's kind of keeping things very much under wrap. We don't know who exactly will be back or who won't be. Would love to see as many guys as possible back tomorrow. This is a good Penn State team, so you want to be at full force. But of course, the ability is going to be, or the big challenge is when you go on the road is can you control the tempo? So I'd like to get into some of this. I think the run game, both offensively for Michigan and defensively for our defense against Penn State's rushing attack, is going to be critical. It's kind of old school football, but when you go on the road, if you can run the ball and stop the run, we'll get into some of these stats throughout the show, Isaiah. That controls time of possession, which controls the crowd's ability to get hyped up. If you're elongating drives and you're having success on 10, 11 play drives and scoring 7 points, red zone is going to be critical for us. That Penn State has one of the best red zone defenses in the country, but ultimately we're going to have to find a way. It doesn't matter who we're facing, is to put up touchdowns and not field goals. So get into some of those stats, but I think those are going to be the main key factors I'm looking at if Michigan wants to secure a victory tomorrow.
Yeah, and I'm going to second that it's such a great environment. It's my fourth time going to Penn State. Second noon game. I've been to 3 whiteouts. Obviously, the noon game that you guys played in 2015, that was a weird daytime whiteout. So it was still pretty lively, maybe
Yep.
not as lively as the night ones when you can get fans all lathered up by letting them drink all day, go around town all day. It's not only do I love it as a venue, I mean it's a great college town. I'm looking forward to heading there, getting some creamery because I'm about 40 minutes outside of town. So as soon as I'm done with this in the M Zone, Sirius XM, I'm making my way down to State College, getting me some ice cream, going around town. You mentioned a few things there that are really pivotal for Michigan. Obviously, the red zone being one of them. But one of the things that I'm looking at is the one dimensionality of this Penn State team, because we went into the year thinking that this was maybe going to be the best rushing attack in the Big Ten Conference, at least. Has not gone that way at all for Penn State. They still have, I mean, Noah Cain's still really good. Devin Ford's been banged up. Kevon Lee, who really kind of came on against Michigan last year. But this is a different Michigan defense, right? This is it's a defense that's done mostly well at stopping the run, except for against Kenneth Walker. It's been mostly good at stopping the pass, except for kind of in some late game situations, even if some of those games were close. They obviously, Washington wasn't close, but Nebraska was. So expound a little bit on your thoughts defensively, perhaps playing a healthier, but probably a little still better Clifford, but the Jahan Dotson duo is certainly the one to pay attention to in this game.
Yeah, so they're going to test us in the air. Absolutely is, and the reason why, I mean, of course, they have talent and they have an ability to score points and put together yards through their passing attack. But I think maybe they're so reliant on the passing attack because the rushing attack has really, really not met the mark. They've really struggled this year. Right now they're 13th in the Big Ten in rushing. They have no 100-yard rushers on the season, and when you look at that, that affects time of possession. So if you can't run the ball, maybe you can pass the ball, but you're obviously not running at 100% completion rate. So some of those passes fall incomplete. Some of those passes are toward the sideline, which stop the clock. It really affects time of possession. And what we'll talk about later is Michigan's success in rushing the ball. At some point, you're going to start to see a very, very big gap in the time of possession. And especially when you go on the road, that matters. It's very hard to stay involved in the game when you're not getting hyped up for your offense scoring points, and there's a opposing offense that just slowly beating down on you and marching down throughout the field and kind of taking the air out of the stadium. So right now, Penn State have not shown the ability to run the ball, and that's against both good and bad defenses. I think Michigan will be one of, if not the best defense they face up until this point this season. So I think Michigan should continue to have success there, but we will be tested in the passing game. We will have to answer the mark in that sense. And again, Isaiah, it comes down to, I think last week was a little bit better against Indiana, is got to avoid making the big mistake. So can you play sound defense 99% of the time, and then the 1% of the time you aren't, you're still avoiding the big mistake. Yeah, you might have missed an assignment, but you're still wrapping up and tackling them for only a 5 to 10 yard gain. You're not giving up an 80-yard touchdown. Okay, those are the punches that when you play better teams, you're not going to be able to recover from. So those are going to be the things that we're going to be looking for this week. Is just play a disciplined, sound game on the defensive side of the ball. We really shouldn't be tested more than we have been, especially against Michigan State was going to be our best test up to the season. We kind of got punched in the face in that sense. Penn State is nowhere near that level of attack, so we should be dominant in stopping the run. As long as we avoid the big mistake in the passing game, it should be a clean game in the back end.
All right, well, we'll continue talking about this game. We'll start moving over to the Michigan offense, how it will face this Penn State defense here momentarily. But before we do, this episode of Locked On Wolverines is brought to you by McDonald's, proudly serving communities since 1965. McDonald's has always been more than just a place to get tasty, affordable food. It's a place where friends and family can come to reconnect, a place where classmates can meet up for a study group, knowing they'll have dependable Wi-Fi and endless supplies of French fries and McFlurries. Win or lose, it's a place where teammates, competitors, and the home team or away team can come to recharge. It's a place you always look forward to stopping on a long road trip to rest your legs and refuel. I will certainly be needing that after the coming home from the game in the late hours tomorrow. So one of the things that I like to always mention here on this program was my former colleague used to always stop at McDonald's and use the Wi-Fi. Again, something that certainly could be on the docket for me tomorrow because they have that dependable Wi-Fi. So whether it's coming in after a Little League game, stopping at McDonald's after the Michigan Penn State game, if you're on the road for it, connecting to Wi-Fi when you need to get work done, any of those types of things, head to your local McDonald's to refuel and reconnect. Da 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 da. I'm loving it. All right, Jake, let's continue. Let's talk a little bit about the situation that Michigan will face defensively. This is certainly statistically not the best defense that Michigan will have faced. That honor continues to go to Wisconsin. I don't see that changing anytime soon. Michigan was able to do a lot against the Badgers offensively, but certainly there's some other teams that are kind of up there. Nebraska, Michigan State, aside from the pass defense. All have kind of some dependable defenses. But Penn State is not only ranked 40th in total defense, it's also ranked 40th when it comes to the Pro Football Focus score. So, what are your thoughts about what this Michigan offense might be trying to do against this Penn State defense? The big thing for me, as well as everybody, is who ends up coming back. Is it the full complement of injured players? Is it some of them? How do you want to see Michigan attack this Penn State defense, regardless?
Yeah, well, regardless, you want to see. You don't even know, is Cade healthy? Are we going to see Andrew Anthony? Are we going to see Blake Corum? Some of these guys that got banged up last week, where Eric will be back. But aside from that fact, the fact of the matter is we have a healthy offensive line. We have a healthy Hassan Haskins. And Penn State, just as they've struggled to run the ball, they've really struggled to stop the run. So they've given up 4 different games against teams where they've allowed 160 yards plus rushing the ball. Those were against Wisconsin, Auburn, Illinois, and Ohio State. We have a better rushing attack than every team that was just mentioned. So if those teams were able to have success running the ball, there's no doubt that we should have success running the ball. And I think every Michigan fan knows we're going to be committed to the run game. We will be committed to, turn around and handing the ball off. It's easy. It's comfortable. And if a team isn't able to stop it, we should have a lot of success. And again, it comes into this bigger picture is, maybe if you're playing against a lesser team without a crowd involvement, you don't need to worry about this, but you are going into a hostile environment, a crowd that will be rowdy, will be excited. Those rushing drives where you're putting together 7 to 10 to 11, 12 play drives, 8, 9 minutes off the clock, and you're finishing with a touchdown. It's so hard to stay invested as a fan. There's not enough beer in Penn State to keep those guys rowdy throughout the game, So if you can put together at least 1 or 2 or 3 of those drives, it should be a dominant performance. I really see Michigan as a much better team than Penn State this week. But again, it doesn't matter what's on paper. You have to go out and execute it. So, of course, I think our rushing attack will have success. Whoever's playing quarterback this week, whoever's on the edge, would still love to see it, man. Would love to see us put together some man beaters, some zone beaters, allow us to have success and confidence in the passing game, especially in the red zone. Red zone is going to be the big telltale story for us. Penn State has an excellent red zone defense, one of the top in the country. Can we execute and exploit that? And if we can against Penn State, it'll be imperative that we watch film going forward to see what we did that was successful and what we did that was unsuccessful. At this point in the season, I don't know necessarily that we're any better today than we were last time or earlier in the season at red zone offense. So you would like to see week over week improvement and changes being made to allow us to continue to get better as a team as we face tougher teams going down the stretch.
Now, Penn State has a number 50 rushing defense. To give you some comparatives, Wisconsin still is number 1 in the country as far as that's concerned. But they've played some other teams that they've had some success, no success. I shouldn't say no. Michigan's gotten over 100 yards every game. But Michigan State is the next best team. But the right above Penn State in the mid 40s is Indiana and Nebraska, not in that order. So that kind of gives you an idea of what they're going to be facing as far as that's concerned. Also, similarly, the 45th ranked pass defense. So I'm curious to see if they're able to step some things up in that light. So we'll see as far as that's concerned. Before we move on to our actual score predictions, Jake, because you opened up the show with you saying this is your favorite was your favorite road venue. I was here with you in 2015, not with you as far as the team. I wasn't putting on pads. Maybe I should have. I had that kind of physique 6-7 years ago. Less so now, but nonetheless, what are those things about those games that you've played here that you remember? We talked earlier in the week about playing Penn State and with it being about that 2014 game or 2013 game rather, the night game. But I'm more curious about what you remember from the 2015 game.
So maybe it's not the 2015 game, but it's true. We can just kind of go down that path and take this and run with it. I always loved playing road games, and I love going into hostile environments. And there's the thing about it is when you're at home and your fans love you and they're cheering for you and they're patting you on the back. Well, that can make you a little comfortable. Not that it matters, not that it's even worth talking about, but I'll tell you one thing is when you're at home, you're definitely not walking to an environment where you feel hated and where you feel like your backs are against the wall. Okay. And in the game of football, you're going into a dogfight. So if you are in an environment where you know your back's against the wall, that's going to immediately put you in the right mindset that you need to succeed. When you go into Penn State, the crowd will be packed. There again, like I said, there's a certain little rivalry almost that's going on between James Franklin, Jim Harbaugh, Penn State, Michigan. So you're going into that hostile environment where they're going to be rowdy. There's a lot on the line. Now Penn State's lost 3 out of the last 4, so it's do or die for them at this point. If they want to save their season and salvage something special, they got to beat us. And as always, they really want to beat us regardless of the schedule. So you're walking into an environment where there's a lot on the line and everybody knows it and everybody feels it. And as we know with the University of Michigan is no one's coming to save us. Our backs are going to be against the wall. Can you go in there and throw a haymaker? Can you go in there and throw a punch? Some of my favorite memories of playing about that stadium is there's something to be said about when you have 100,000 people screaming and praying on your downfall and wishing for you to mess up. And they're just going nuts and it's 3rd and 6. And then you make a play, and all of a sudden, all that energy just leaves the stadium, and it goes dead quiet. I think that's a feeling that can't really get anywhere else. Of course, when you make a play at home, everybody's cheering for you. That's awesome. But to take it from somebody, I don't know. There's just something about the game of football where it's violent and it's a dogfight that it just feels that much sweeter. So going on the road puts you in the right mindset. You understand you're getting into a dogfight, and you're going to go out there and ready to fight back and ready to throw some punches. And if you can get those 100,000 people, there's no better feeling than looking in the crowd in the late 3rd quarter, early 4th quarter, and you see people walking up the stands, leaving the game early because you just buried a team and took their will from them. And that's what this Michigan team is capable of, and that's what I expect this Michigan team to do this weekend.
Jake Butt, who had 5 catches for 66 yards and a touchdown the last time he played at Penn State. So knows a little something about everything he just said. We're going to get into score predictions and kind of how we expect this game to go here momentarily. But before we do, listen, we are back and better than ever. BetOnline has a new web interface for the start of basketball season with even more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all the football and basketball action this season. Head over to our new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today. To receive your 50% welcome bonus with your first deposit, just use the promo code Locked On to receive your bonus from basketball, football, NHL, boxing, UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all of your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. Now, I don't need to have a script to tell you a little something about Built Bar. Jake, you know how much I love Built Bar. I have a box of peanut butter brownie. I owe you a couple of those. I just bought another box yesterday of my other favorite coconut brownie chunk. I'm telling you, absolutely incredible stuff. I continue to put my money where my mouth is and buy box over box over box. That being so good. I'm not eating 2 at a time or 3 at a time or any of those things, but I want to be stocked up for the most part. But even if I did have 2 at a time, guess what? Still less carbs, less calories, higher protein than going out and getting a Metrics Big 100. because it's just that's what Built Bar is, and it's delicious. Tastes like a candy bar, yet it's a protein bar. So for those of you who want to do like me, try this amazing brand out. Go to built.com, put in promo code locked15. That's built.com, promo code locked15 to get your next order of Built Bar. All right, so pausing as if there's going to be music. Look, for those who I see, we have 7 people watching live because I didn't announce that we were doing this live because we're trying it out for the first time. Since both of us are on the road, I do have my editing suite with me, but I just figured this is the easiest way to do it. So yes, Mr. Butt.
Isaiah, now we're live. I got a couple former Michigan players here. Should we ask them if they would like to make a guest appearance and give their live prediction? Would that be worth considering?
I think it would be absolutely worth it. We should 100% do that.
All right. Well, listen, I just shot them a text. Why don't we get going here? If they don't respond, they're right outside in the other room. They're trying to be respectfully quiet, like the respectful men that they are. Maybe we can bring them in here. We got Ben Gideon, Henry Poggi, and Chris Fox. We can give our score predictions going into this weekend. But why don't you and I just chop it up and let's see?
All right, yeah. And if they don't answer, you can just yell for them, or I can vamp for a few moments. Whatever we need to do.
Cool. All right. Cool.
All right. So, Jake, what is it that you see happening in this game, and give me your final score prediction?
So here's what I see happening. This is what I expect. But again, it's a game of football, so you never quite know. Now, I think Michigan is one of the top 5-6 teams in the country. I think if you turn on the Michigan State film, you see that. But what you also see is an inability to finish when the time comes. So you're going on the road. It's especially hard to do that. I think Michigan is a much better team than Penn State, but I also think Penn State has a history of finding ways to win. We haven't necessarily proved that to be our narrative throughout the organization. So this is a big game for us. I don't know. I haven't really seen it hyped up like that throughout this media or throughout this week. But you and I both know, the players know, this is a massive game with massive implications. I think Michigan should go in there, and if we do what we're capable of, I think it should be a good, clean win. I think I texted you. Maybe this is the same score. Maybe it isn't. I'm expecting a 33-14 weekend win this weekend by Michigan.
And I think that was exactly what you texted me, so that works out perfectly. I think that it's going to be a situation where Michigan's going to go in knowing that it needs to contain Jahan Dotson, and I think it's going to do a decent job of doing that. Keep in mind, I use the word contain, not control or stop. They're not going to be able to stop him entirely. I'm curious to see how much they get the tight ends involved. I think Penn State is going to want to try to hit underneath, try to get the attention away from Dotson, and then hit him later once Michigan has to account for some other things. But I think Michigan will do a mixture of two things defensively: stop the run, which again Penn State isn't really a very good running team anyway. I think they're going to be able to stall that out the way that pretty much every other team has. And then from there, I think that they'll be able to key in on just getting Sean Clifford off of his spot. This is not a team that is particularly good or bad at limiting sacks. It's right in the middle of the road. So it's gonna. I think that this is going to be the most formidable front that they've seen so far this year, and I'm including some of these other teams that they've faced: Iowa, Ohio State, Wisconsin. So I think that they'll be able to get what they want there. I do think Penn State will finish its drives. I think Michigan will not finish all of it. I'm going to stay with that 33 score. That's been my favorite number since.
Love that number.
I mean, it's that's what they got, I believe, against Northwestern and Michigan State, and then they only got 29 against Indiana. But I think that that's probably a pretty good number for this Michigan team. So 33-21. It's going to stay close for about 2.5 quarters, and then Michigan pulls ahead and just it's kind of the knockout punch there. So, all right, Jake, do you have guests? Where are they? All right. So while Jake Butt is gone, I guess I have to find something else to discuss here. But yeah, obviously we got some big extra guests for those of you who are watching on the YouTube. But yeah, it's I don't know. I'm excited about this game. I think Penn State's certainly going to give Michigan everything it has because it doesn't want to go 6-4. you figure there's only one game that's kind of an aberration, and that was
All right.
Illinois.
We got some guests. We got some guests. Real quick predictions for us.
Quick
All
prediction.
right.
We'll go 31-21 Michigan.
Henry Poggi.
That Henry Poggi with the same Penn State score, 2 points less for Michigan than what I
Ben
had.
Gideon. Come on. We're live. We're on camera.
9-6.
That's Ben Gideon's torso. Oh, there he is.
It's going to be a defensive battle.
You heard it. Lots of field goals.
Lots of field goals. Hopefully that they find a way to not do that, especially against a really good red zone team. All right. So I've worn myself out due to the bad vamping while you were gone. So
Okay.
that's gonna do it for us today. We will be back next week with both X's and O's, as well as the preview of the Maryland game. I will be on the road for that Maryland game yet again. We'll see where Jake Butt is. Jake Butt might be in Bermuda. I don't know what he does.
Hey, Frosty.
So
Thank
anyway,
you,
that'll
guys.
do it.
Go Blue.
Thanks for watching and or listening.